Hey, welcome to Grow, and we hope you're doing well today. We're on our second part here of talking about the individual gifts, and we're going to talk about the gift of giving. And some people just have this gift of giving. In fact, we find this in Romans chapter 12, verse 8 and verse 13. It says that there were gift givers who distributed to the needs of the saint. And in Romans chapter 12, verse 8, this is where we find this gift. And it says, "He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity." And that's the King James. I'm going to explain what that means. The Greek there, to give, means to impart, to give over, or to share something that is yours to give to somebody else. And when he says to give with simplicity, it's an interesting word. It means to give with sincerity, that mental honesty. Now, why would you need mental honesty when you give? Because you're giving with that, no motives, no intentions of getting back, that you're legitimately just wanting to meet the need. You don't need any recognition. You don't want any recognition. In fact, you go out of your way to try to hide that it was you that gave the gift. There's no pretense. There's no hypocrisy. There's nothing. You're self-seeking. You don't want anybody to know about it. Well, how do you profile these people? Well, I've gone through the scriptures and profiled people who have this gift. Now, the first thing about these people with the gift of giving, it's very interesting, is that they understand where all their resources come from, where their finances come from, where their house comes from, where their cars come from. They understand this very simple principle, and that none of their houses, their land, the money, the job, everything, their family, it's not theirs. It's God's. And God has simply lent them to them for a short time, and they are supposed to be servants of what has been given. I want you to think about it, that even though you may be paying on your house or your land, or you may own it, so to speak, to be honest, it's just going to be a few more years and somebody else will have it, and then somebody else will have it, and somebody else will have it. It's not really ours, so to speak. God has just given it to us for this certain time. You think about what Jesus said. Now, I know a lot of people teach that Jesus wants you to be wealthy and he wants you to have all these things, but he says the foxes have holes, the birds have nests, but the Son of Man had no place to lay his head. He didn't even have a house of his own, and he says, and he wanted to minister and go place to place without having this burden. In Mark 6:41, you got to know where your gift comes from. You remember when he had the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes? There are 5 words that explain exactly where everything we have comes from. And this is what happened. He takes the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and this is what he does. He looked up to heaven. He looked up to heaven. That explains everything. And a gift giver, one who has this gift of giving, understands that I'm not hoarding it. I'm not taking it with me. I want to give. Now, the interesting thing about those who have the gift of giving is that we often think about these people being very wealthy, and that's not what this is about. It's not about, hey, let's have wealthy people giving. It's about the person who has the least amount sometimes is the person who has this gift of giving. Do you remember when Jesus was in the temple, when he was watching people put in their money? And it says, "Behold, the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in very much." And he's watching them. But then he says, "And then there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing." This was the smallest coin that they had. It is even less than our own penny in U.S. dollars. And he called to his disciples and said, "Verily I say unto you, that this poor widow has cast in more than all of those rich people that cast in the money. She is giving more, because of the gift that she gave cost her everything." We often talk about rich people wanting to give and give and give, but you know what? They're giving out of abundance. Here's a lady who gave because this is all that she had, and Jesus said she gave more. She definitely had the gift of giving. Not only this, we see another favorite story of mine in the Bible is that gift givers often do motivate other people to give in the right manner. And they're not even trying to motivate people, but people see their example. And even people that don't have the gift often will give simply because of watching the example of a gift giver. You remember the lady named Tabitha in the scripture in the book of Acts chapter 9? And we see that this lady was a giver. She made clothes. She took care of people. She took care of the sick. She cooked for people. And she got sick herself and she died. And the ladies came together and laid her in the upper room and prepared her body. And about that time, Peter was passing through. And all these women went to their houses and they grabbed the stuff that Tabitha had done for them and made for them. And they're shoving this in Peter's face and laying all this stuff out and saying, this woman took care of us and she gave. And they stood by this woman weeping and showing all the coats and the garments while she was with him. You know what? I can't imagine that how many people came to take care of Tabitha while she was sick. You know why? Because Tabitha gave while she was alive. Now, we see another thing. So not only do we see gift givers understand where the gift comes from, and also they're not necessarily wealthy, and they often motivate others to give. And here's the fourth thing, is they meet legitimate needs. All right, you remember the early church, and you remember people were in need. You know what these people did, who God called to do this? There were people that had their own land and had their own houses. Maybe it was extra houses or extra land, and they sold them, and they brought these, the financial responsibility, whatever it would have been. It didn't have to be all of it. You know, there wasn't required to do it. Some of them probably brought all the money. They sold their land, they sold their houses, and they laid it at the apostles' feet. We see Barnabas having sold his land and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. We have people that stepped up and met legitimate needs that were going on in the church because there was no Social Security. There was none of this. People were not able to survive, and there were gift givers that were called at that certain time. Not only this, they do it without pressuring from other people. Don't you hate sitting in services where whoever it may be, a pastor, a deacon, or whoever is making announcements, is begging you to give, is begging you to give? You know what the cool thing about these people that have the gift of giving? And it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, 3 and 4, it says, for according to their power, I bear witness ye beyond their power that they gave of their own accord. You know what? They don't have to be forced to give. They're naturally looking for opportunities to serve other people and having this gift of giving. Now, there are some pitfalls in these people because sometimes they're overly generous and they end up hurting themselves or other people. And I want to explain what that meant. Let's talk about some pitfalls. You know, sometimes they can fall and let their flesh get involved in a pharisaical trap where they begin to let other people know, hey, this is what I did. This is how much my wife and I gave. This is what we do for the church. I just want you to know. Well, look, this is the way we see it in the scriptures, that you can get your reward now from men, or you can wait and get your reward in heaven by simply closing your mouth. Not only another pitfall is sometimes people that give, if they do it with the wrong attitude, is that they can honestly look around and be critical and judge others who are not participating in the same giving or the same need that they feel so important. There may be something that you're just absolutely sold on and you think we have to help these people. Well, you come and you talk to a couple other people and they don't seem interested and you're like, I don't understand. Why don't you get involved? You know what? Maybe God hasn't called them. Maybe God has called you and he has given you the necessary means to be able to handle this situation. So don't criticize others for not being giving and participating in the same amount you do. And not only this, is sometimes givers can give such large amounts of time and money is that they actually neglect their family's needs and by giving away to other needs. Now, I know that's extreme, but a true person who has the gift of giving, we see that they really want it done in secret. And they want to give in three ways. They want to give in their abilities, and this is where your talents would definitely come into play. If you play a piano or sing, you just want to be able to serve and to give. Sometimes it's your resources. We see people that turn around and hand over their cars to other people because they have them and they see a need and they just want to give. And they have this necessary means of giving. And so God has blessed them with it and they want to turn around and pass it on. We see that so many times. All the countries I've been to, people walk up and hand me money, and it's amazing how all that plays out. And they have somebody they've never met, and it perfectly plans in the Lord's hand. And not only this, they give time. I mean, you think something that's more valuable than money, it's your time. And so they have the gift of time, gift of giving, and they want to give their time. These people are amazing. They just see the need and they take care of it. And it's a very, very important gift that we have of people. Don't neglect the gift. Stir up the gifts that are inside of you. Don't neglect them. God bless you.